Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and in today's video we're going to be installing the MPower ORV Chase light kit. So I picked this up from Real Truck. I'll leave a link to this guy down in the description below. But there's really two reasons why I wanted to film this video. One, particularly with this part, I've been really interested in it for a while. I've seen it run on a lot of the Raptors at the Raptor Assault. I just like the concept of it, and it's a pretty neat idea, so I wanted to film a video to feature it. Second thing is, I was looking for a way to show a video of how to use the pass-through wires for the switches. So those are the wires that are located in the engine bay and then that run into the cab. So you can hook up accessories to the cab wires instead of the ones underneath the hood. So this is a video that kind of kills two birds with one stone. Get to feature cool product, but also get to show you how the pass-through wires work. So let's get this guy out of the box, take a look at what it is that we're going to be installing, and I'll talk you through the three main steps of how we're going to install this guy. All right, so we got everything out of the box. Let's take a look at what comes in the box. Let's dive into a little bit more of the details in ORV light, and then let's get into what the installation process is going to take, because it's basically three easy steps here. So you obviously get the ORV Chase light bracket with lights already installed and built into it. These are MPower's own LED lights. You get a wire harness that's going to plug into the back of the bracket here, and that's what allows you to tie into your factory switches. And then you get some additional installation hardware depending on how you want to install it. So there's some fuses, there is some butt connectors, zip ties, and everything in between. So again, there's a lot of different ways you can connect this on the truck. For my install, I'm going to tie it into aux switch 6 inside the cab using the pass-through wire. So we don't need any of the fuses because the factory wires are already pre-fused. So let's take a look at the light and talk through some of the options or some of the features here. So the light itself is designed to install between your factory third brake light and the body. So we're going to remove this light, we're going to screw this guy into the body, and then we're going to install the factory brake light right into the ORV bracket. So it's pretty cool. It'll give us a nice clean look here. And if you've ever seen any of the Raptor Assault vehicles, a lot of them are running this light again, which is one of the reasons why I really like it. As far as LED colors, you get two options. You can either run these as white or amber LEDs. If you choose to run them as amber, you also have an additional option to run them as either a flashing or a strobe amber or a steady amber. You only have that option with amber. You don't have that option with white. It's either steady white, steady amber, or flashing amber. And the way you dictate what color the lights themselves shine is by what wire you use on the harness. So depending on what wire we connect here to our power for our switches, that will tell these either to be white or amber. And then depending on what wire we connect here, if it's either amber flashing or amber steady. So very, very cool, straightforward, a lot of options for a small package here. As far as install, super simple, three easy steps. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this guy, unplug the light so that we can install the bracket. Once we install this bracket, we're going to run that wire into the passenger, into the cab, down into the passenger footwell, because that's where we're going to tie into our pass-through wires. Then the third step is we're going to go underneath the hood of the truck, and we're going to connect the pass-through wire to one of our switch wires so that when we flip the aux switch on the interior panel inside my Raptor, that's going to tell the pass-through wire to turn on, and then our lights will turn on independent of everything else. So first and foremost, let's get a Torx T20 bit and remove these 4 screws. We're going to hold on to those because we're going to use those to remount this guy back onto the truck. But let's get the T20 bit off there, unplug this, and I'll show you how to install the MPower bracket. All right, so once you undo those 4 T20 bits, just lay those aside. We're going to reuse those to attach this guy to the truck. The light itself should pull straight out. It might be stuck on there a little bit with the seal, but it's super simple. And then there are 2 harnesses, so there's one there and one here. We're going to unplug those. That way we can feed this wire through the MPower harness once we install it. But we're going to leave it unplugged for a while. So once we get this guy installed, then we're going to run our wire for the MPower harness, come back at the end of the project and reattach this guy. So, all right, with the factory third brake light out of the way, I'm going to hold off on installing the MPower bracket because it just gives us a lot more room to work with here. And I want to clean this off before I do install it. But while we're here, here's a nice silicone gasket in the back. So for those that are concerned about water intrusion, you're not going to have it with this. It's got a nice robust seal there. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to find our MPower wire harness here. And that's this guy here. You can see they have the first big section of it wrapped in Tesa tape. That way you don't have any sort of vibrations. And then also in the kit, they include, might still be in the box. Oh, no, it's in there. There's a rubber like adhesive pad that once we make the final connection, we're going to wrap this in it. That way, when it's inside and installed on top of the roof panel inside the truck, it's not going to rattle around. You got that rubber gasket on it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to feed this wire down into the hole here. So there's a hole that this wire harness goes into, and then we're gonna push it that way, and I'll hop down into the rear passenger door. And what we wanna do is feed the wire this way and run it down the C pillar on the passenger side so that we could then put it in the sill plate and run it all the way straight to the front of the passenger side floorboard. So okay, so I went ahead and started feeding the wire in through that little wire chase into the top of the roof liner. Then I went into the back door here, pulled the weather seal off. Easiest way to do that is to pull the sill plate off, and then that's where the seam of the weather seal meets. Just pull it up and it literally just pops straight off, and you pull it up as much as you need. The reason I did that is I want to remove the C pillar just a smidge. I want to pull it off of the wall here. There's an airbag in there, and I want to make sure that when I run the wire across here and I run it down the C pillar, that I'm not interfering with the airbag. It's just a safer way to do it. The other way you can do it is just run it across the ceiling here, avoid that airbag all along here, and then just snake the wire down the edge here. But I figure I could pull the C-pillar off. I've had it off before. It's just a lot easier. That way I could zip tie that wire, and it's 100% out of the way. So all right, so I have the wire successfully run from the high mount brake light position across the back of the roof of the truck, and then it ends up right now in the top of the C-pillar. So this is the wire here. Make sure you run it away from that airbag there. As long as you keep it towards the rear of the C-pillar, you're in good shape. So then what I'm gonna do is zip tie it to this drain tube here, and it's just gonna follow the C-pillar all the way down. We're gonna pull off some more trim panels, and then this guy's just gonna basically pop into this little channel here. Let's get some light on there. So there is a wire tray there, and it's gonna pop in there, and I'm gonna push it all the way to the front passenger side section, pull it out, and then we'll attach it to our pass-through wires. That part's done, and then we'll go underneath the hood and plug everything else in on that side of things. All right, so I went ahead and put the C-pillar back together. Because we have our wire run, we're good to go. You can see right down in the sill plate, that gray wire, that is the wire for the MPower light, and I just basically fished it through that channel, and that ultimately ends up right up here. So this is a continuous channel. It's really nice. Just push the wire through. There's enough backbone on the wire to get it through into the passenger side. Next thing we're going to do is we want to open up this panel, and the reason I say open that up is because there is actually an access panel behind there to get to the fuse box, but it's a lot easier to open that up to get to the pass-through wires. So what we're going to do is remove that. But in order to remove that guy, we're going to pull off the seal, and then we're going to go up to this panel, and then we're going to pull this panel off. It's really easy. We're just going to grab it down here and then just pop all the pins out. Pull this panel out first, then we'll be able to pull the kick plate out, and then we'll have access to our pass-through wires, which are located right about here. We'll get a little bit more lighting in there, and then we will make our connections and then hop into the engine bay. Okay, so if you came here looking for information on the pass-through wires, this part is for you. Here are the pass-through wires right here. There's a bundle of them. I have 5 because the 6th one's dedicated to the factory fog light, so they didn't provide it to me here. But these weren't always located right here. There is a fiber panel right here and some push pins holding it in place. I had to undo the first push pin, pull this panel down, and these wires were taped right up, right around here behind the dash. So I had to pull this down, basically slowly cut it so I could pull these guys down. So now that I have the pass-through wires here, I'm gonna find the one that is dedicated to aux 6 because they're color coordinated. So the colors here are gonna match the colors underneath the dash. That way I keep everything succinct. So the whole intent of pass-through wires is so you can use your factory aux switches to power something with a connection in your cab. Typically, the powered side of those switches is under your hood, and you saw that in my lighting video. I use those for powering my lights. But if you ever have an accessory that you want to power or get power from the engine bay into the cab, you use the pass-through wires. They're literally passing through the firewall to get you power here. Okay, so let's talk through wiring here. First thing we're gonna do is locate the the yellow with orange stripe. This is the pass-through wire that's associated with switch 6 on our factory upfitter switches, and this is what we're gonna tie our ORV lights into. So got that one, we're gonna set that guy aside. Then we went ahead and stripped out some of the wires that are in the MPower harness. So there are 4 wires that you see here. We will not use the white wire. We are going to use the black wire. This is our ground. And then depending on what color you want the lights, that indicates what color wire you're going to connect here to your switch lead. So if you connect the red wire to your switch, that will make your MPower lights amber. If you connect the green wire to your switch, that will make them white. Now remember, white is only a steady light. It's not going to be a strobe. Whereas orange, if you connect this one, or red, if you connect this wire, the lights will be amber, and then depending on how you set up the light, it'll either be steady or strobe. We're gonna set it up as amber strobe, so we're gonna connect this red wire to the yellow with orange, and then this is gonna be our ground, and then we're just gonna tuck these guys away, because we don't need those. What you could do if you want the option is you could put little plugs on the end of these guys and then put a plug on the switch there. So if you get bored with amber, you can go ahead and unplug that guy and then plug this in, and then you could use white. So, all right, so here's my final wiring. I went ahead and used this ground right here for my black wire on the MPower harness. That ground up there is already used by my ambient lighting and my camera, so I figure I'll leave that one alone. Then I went ahead and I put plugs, or these little spade connectors, on both the amber as well as the white wire lead. That way in the future, if I ever want to change it or get bored of it, I can just pop one out and then plug it into the harness, and then I get the other different color options. So I would suggest doing that too. I wouldn't cut this wire, just leave it there, put a spade connector on there. You might want to switch them later on down the road. But white wire is not used. I'm just going to tape that off here. We are done as far as connections inside the engine bay. So what I'm going to do now is just zip tie these guys up underneath here, get all the panels put back together, and then what we could do is hop underneath the hood, make those connections, and then finally plug everything in and take a look at how this operates. So let's clean all this mess up. All right, so now that we have our pass-through wires connected here, we got everything teed up on top of the truck, so we just got to plug everything in. What we're going to do now is connect those pass-through wires to the main lighting harness. And in order to do that, I guess the cleanest way to do that, we're going to pull the battery out of the way, because all those harnesses are right inside this fender, and it's just a lot easier to get to them that way. You can reach down in there and try to pull at them. I got kind of a rat's nest going on here because I do have my auxiliary lighting controller here, which I'm going to use for these, but it's really a lot easier to just go ahead and pull the battery out, and maybe even the battery bracket or the battery tray that this is sitting in. We'll see, but let's pull this guy out of the way. I'll show you the two harnesses that you have, or two bundles of wire. You have one wire bundle that's got red electric tape on it. That's the wire, that's the live wires. Those are the ones in the engine bay that when you flip the switch, you're gonna get power on those. And then you have a dead set. The dead set are the other end of those pass-through wires. So you take your hot set that was in the red wires, you connect those to the dead set, and that's what's going to give you a signal on the passenger wires down in your passenger footwell. All right, so let's see if I can explain everything. This is my lighting control box, and these white wires here are my output. So every time I flip a switch inside the cab of my truck, the hot wires that are underneath the cab tell a relay to turn on, and then the output goes to these wires. So that's what you're looking at here. You probably won't have those if you have a factory truck. But what these relays all use are the hot set of aux wires in the truck that come factory. So that's what you see down here. These are the ones that were originally wrapped. You can see the red piece of tape. They are wrapped in red electric tape. So these are the ones that when you flip a switch inside the cab, these wires are all hot. Now, there is a second set of identical wires right next to it, and it has white electric tape on it. Usually, yours is going to look a little bit different than mine because I accidentally tapped into these thinking they were the hot before, but they're not. But anyway, these are your pass-through wires. So what I need to do is connect one of my outputs from my lighting control panel to the yellow with orange stripe wire here so that it'll power those lights on the MPower light bar. So what I need to do is just put a little plug here and then find number 6, which is right here, I believe. Yep. So then I'm just going to put the other end, the male side of this plug, onto the orange wire here so that I could just plug everything in. It's a nice clean swap, and it looks like just like everything else. So this is why I'm saying it's easier to take your battery out. Sometimes it's even easier to take the battery tray out, but I got enough length here to get everything done. It's a little tight, but it's doable. And then, all right, battery's back in. Time to hop back up into the tailgate of the truck and finish up the final connections and then fire up the MPower ORV light. All right, so we're at the exciting part where we're making all the final connections. So the first thing you do before you plug anything in is go into the kit and pull out that little foam piece, because what we're going to do is once we plug in the back section of the ORV light into the plug that we ran for the wire harness, we're gonna wrap it in this foam, and I'm gonna go grab some Testa tape and just wrap everything up. That way, whatever's sitting around in here is not gonna rattle. The foam and tape is gonna keep it all in place. Other than that, it's pretty simple. So we're gonna take our light here, we're gonna plug it into the harness, we're gonna wrap it in foam, we're gonna use the factory hardware to mount the ORV light to the truck, and then we're gonna use the supplied hardware to mount the light to the ORV bracket. So it's pretty simple. Factory hardware is going to hold the new MPower lights to the truck. The new hardware that comes in the kit, also T20 bits, are going to hold the light to the ORV kit. So let's go ahead and make all our final connections, and let's play around with this guy. All right, one last peek before I button everything up. Did just do a test fit, or a test light, I guess. I gave it a little power, and everything's working good. So I guess that's worth saying. Before you button everything up and screw everything in and put everything in its final resting place, go ahead and test your lights just to make sure all the wires and everything are in place. What you will notice is I got a Phillips head screw here, but the Torx bits or Torx screws here, I lost the screw. It fell down between the bed and the cab of the truck. But in case you're wondering, it is a number 8 1.5" stainless steel screw. So that's what these guys are. They're good to go. All right, here is the final product. We got the factory light mounted to the ORV light, and the ORV light's mounted to the cab of the truck. It's a nice clean seal. Make sure you're pushing everything nice and flat and tightening everything down even. That way, you know, you got no water intrusion. You shouldn't have to worry about it. This is a well-designed product, but again, just make sure that when you're installing it, you're cognizant of that. Anyways, let's get everything out of the way. Let's take a look at this thing in action, and then we will close this one out. All right, let's do a little bit of a test here. So let's go ahead and put the power onto the truck. And remember, I hooked that guy up to aux switch 6. So we turn it on, and you can already see the flashing. But there we go. So our chase lights are working. Factory lamp's working as it should. It's going to keep doing what it needs to do. But now we have the MPower lights, and we have them set on strobe. That's why you're getting the amber strobe. And again, one of the things I did do for future is when I did make the connection down in the passenger side footwell, I put a tab in there. Whoop.
So you're not getting settled in the group quick.
I put a tab in there so that I could switch back and forth between amber and white. So if I wanted to switch to white, I'll get a steady light when I hit aux switch 6. But I think this is definitely in the nature of having chase lights. That's what you want it to do. But anyway, that's how you install the MPower lights. We'll go ahead and get these guys, or get this truck out in some dark roads. Take a look at truly how bright these are, not just in my garage here. And then we'll shut this one down. All right, so we are on an alternative dark road. My actual road that I usually test my lights on is over there, but for whatever reason, it's closed down right now. So we're gonna use this new subdivision over here as my little test bench for my lights. So you can see everything's on, just normal. Truck's in running mode. Let's go ahead and flip aux switch 6, which will turn our MPower lights on and not fall. So if I hit that guy, this will give us a sense of truly how bright they are. So you can see they're shining probably about good 50, 60 yards behind the truck. So they are visible. But anyway, that is the installation of the MPower lights. That is them functioning as the amber strobe. You can also have amber steady, and then you can have white steady, which I have mine set up so I can flip over to white steady with just a little flip of the wire in the passenger footwell. But with that said, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll leave the link to this guy down in the description. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Happy to answer those, or shoot me an email. Thank you guys very much for watching. Bye.